In today's second reading, St. Paul gives practical advice on how to be peaceful and not anxious. Before giving the advice, St. Paul tells us to have no anxiety at all. Then he teaches what to do so as not to have anxiety. According to St. Paul, we are to pray in a variety of ways. We are to pray by making our request known to God. There are two main ways of making our request known to God. A way entails asking God for something we desire. Another way is by simply presenting to God the various movements of our hearts, out of which desires and aversions are formed. In other words, we are to pray with our hearts where our hearts, along with our desires, are presented to God. In prayer, our hearts are to speak to God's heart. If we are in pain, we are to present this pain to God. If we are happy, we are to present this happiness to God. The movements of our hearts that we present to God may be movements of consolation, including peace, joy, and love. At other times, these movements of our hearts may entail pain, sadness, anger, or grief. To speak to God with our hearts means to share with God our inmost self, the deep part of ourselves that come before our requests. As we share our hearts with God, we are to ask God to help us to keep, writes St. Paul, whatever is true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, and gracious, and also excellent. As God helps us to discern what to encourage in our hearts and what to let go, then, writes St. Paul, the God of peace will be with you. Then, assures St. Paul, we will not be anxious. St. Paul also teaches that we're also to pray by thanking God. We're to pray with the spirit of gratitude for all that we experience, both times of consolation and times of desolation that God permits us to undergo. The more we grow in the spirit of gratitude, the more the peace of God will also be with us, since when we are grateful, we are other-centered. We are focused on another person as we thank and praise that person while not being focused on ourselves, while not being focused on our pains, our worries. The less we are self-centered and more other-centered, by being grateful, the more we'll experience peace and be free from anxiety. Today, may we look to Jesus and share with Jesus our hearts. May our hearts speak to his sacred heart. As we share our sorrows and our joys with Jesus, may we thank him for the sorrows and joys we experience. Then, transformed by gratitude, our joys and sorrows will help move us to be more other-centered as we grow in love of God and in love of neighbor, our brothers and sisters. The servants and the son that were sent to the vineyard in today's gospel passage can be interpreted as various movements within our hearts that we experience. Sometimes we experience sorrow, sometimes joy. All these motions within our hearts that seem to come from outside into us are at least permitted by God, who, if we allow him, can transform all these motions as opportunities to thank God for what we experience, and not to kill all these messengers that are coming into us. As we thank God for all that happens in life, our anxieties, our worries will gradually vanish because we are caught up in being God-centered, other-centered, and not self-centered. Lord Jesus Christ, grant us the grace to participate ever more deeply in your Trinitarian, other-centered love, and may the God of peace be with you all. May God bless you.